Okay, welcome to the final assembly of my heavy-duty rotisserie. I call it the pig twister. We'll go around and talk about the parts first. Back here in the corner is my motor. I salvaged that from a copier or maybe a laser printer. Next to that is the transmission. It's a 60-to-1 worm drive gear reduction. I bought it on eBay. And then there's a 40 pitch chain. In front of that here on the corner is the cooling fan. Back here, this is the output shaft with the sprocket and flange bearing attached. This piece of all thread here in the foreground is for adjusting the chain tension. These are the side covers. The one with the hole in it goes on the side of the box where the fan is for air intake. This piece here in the foreground is the mounting board for the motor and transmission. Behind that is the part that holds the rollers that goes on the opposite end of the spit. This is the main body of the enclosure assembly. You can see the hole in the front there where the output shaft comes out, and the brackets for the two rollers for that are affixed to the shelf that rests on the bricks or block cooking enclosure. This is the back cover plate back here, and this is the top cover plate. I'll pause now and start doing the assembly. Okay, first thing that happens is this 1/2-inch diameter rod sits in this groove, and that acts as a pivot point for the mounting plate for the motor and transmission. The motor, which I created an aluminum plate for and used standard hardware store mending brackets, so that the motor sits at the right height so that it interfaces. The output shaft of the motor is at the same height as the input shaft of the transmission. I use a rigid shaft coupler to put those two pieces together, and then all this gets bolted to this plate. So I will do that and then come back. Okay, now I have the motor and transmission assembled to the base plate. Also, I put washers on either side of where this pivot rod goes through, and you can see that this turns pretty nicely. RPM wise, the motor runs at 1800 RPM. It is a gear motor, so it's 13.2-to-1 gear reduction, which means the output RPM here is 136 1/3 RPMs. That goes into a 60-to-1 worm drive gear reduction box, giving me an output RPM of around 2.27, I think, RPM output here. The next thing that needs to happen is that the output shaft flange bearing gets attached to the back plate, so I'll do that next. Okay, the flange bearing on the back end of the output shaft has been attached to the back cover with a couple of bolts, nuts, and lock washers. Now it's time to assemble the motor and transmission and the output shaft assembly, basically the whole drive line, into the main front cover part of the box. So I'll let the camera roll for this part. Set this aside. Bring this top cover over. Set it like this. Take the motor and transmission assembly and attach the end of the pivot into this hole in this block right here, like that. Pick up the washer I dropped. Set it there. Okay. Next thing is the drive chain. I'll put the drive chain over the bottom pulley, the drive pulley on the transmission, sprocket rather, like that. the back cover. In order to put the back cover on, this bolt has to temporarily be removed. That holds the connecting pin in. Probably just messed up. Get that pin out. Well, I'll deal with that later. Anyway, this cover plate goes on, and the chain has to be over this. This goes into the box, and now I will bolt this back cover to the front cover. Okay, with the camera in my hand here, just to give you a look down inside the box so you can see the drive line. The chain's not on yet, and the back and front covers haven't been bolted together yet, but it gives you a general idea of what the chain drive looks like down inside the box. You can see the reason that this pivots is to allow an adjustment of that chain tension. This piece of all thread right here goes down through this hole and through the corresponding hole down there in that, and then nuts and bolts are used to adjust that angle and keep the chain tension right. Let me bolt a couple things together and I'll give you a better look at it after it's here's put another together. View. You can see where the fan mounts inside. There's the motor assembly and transmission, and now I'm going to bolt the back cover on. Look, the back plate is attached with the screws on the corners, and now having a look down inside, you can see the drive chain is on the way that it should be, and you can see down inside there's the fan over there, and up front here where the output shaft exits the box, there's a set of rollers that it rides in, and there will be a similar set of rollers on the other side, and I'll show you how that goes in a minute. Let me put some of the covers on and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, here we are running an operational test. Everything's assembled. A little bit of vibration coming from the spit rod, but there's no weight on it, so that's no big surprise. The fan is running. There you can see the motor driving the transmission, and you can see the chain moving, and look at it from this direction. There will be a pin here. The spit rod disconnects from right here. You just put a pin through it to hold it in place. And then there's the rollers on the other end. That's how it works. Can't wait to get a pig on it. Alright, that's all for now.